Oh, man. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Give and Go. Yes, this is a completely new setup. Not intentional. Our producer is actually missing out this episode.
Producer Rudd.
He's out on a trip, and so we had to make ends meet in a different way. And so this is what we're doing visually. If you're listening to us on Spotify, though, it's going to be the exact same way. Nothing is different. Don't you worry.
Yeah, don't
Just
worry.
Visually, we're going to get some different looking TikToks this time around, but it's fine. It's fine. Shout out our producer, Rudd. What an impact that guy makes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But, man, we got a lot to catch up on, a lot to talk about, man. It's the month of finals.
Yeah, it's the final month of just soccer in general at the club level.
Yeah. Just all these tournaments are finally culminating onto the biggest stage, and it's really exciting, man, because this path is just taken so long since what, back in August/September. To finally be at this point feels really good and rewarding. And so we got to dissect each one of these final matchups and the teams participating in them. But first, we got to talk about some breaking news that got reported just a few hours ago. Erling Haaland has been reported by Fabrizio Romano to be set to join Man City. It is official that he is going to go join the team. Pep has got his striker now.
Yeah, that's the biggest point, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest point. For years, it has been a question of who was going to ultimately replace the number 9 role that Sergio Aguero filled for so long. A true number 9, right? They got Gabriel Jesus when he was like 20, 21 years old from Palmeiras. And obviously, Jesus is a top-class striker. Even though he doesn't score like as much as he probably should, he's very, very good. He deserves to be at the level he is at with Manchester City. But in my opinion, he's fallen a little short from what he should have reached at this point in his career. I think his potential when Man City bought him was very, very high. But for me, he hasn't quite hit it. So there's been talks of Harry Kane coming to Manchester City last year when Kane was like, should I leave Tottenham? That didn't culminate into anything. And so now here we are with Erling Haaland coming to Manchester City.
Yeah, and for me, I asked the question, how much of a real impact can he have? Because Man City has achieved some heights that are almost unprecedented. The fact that they're about to win the league, only having lost 2 games. Right. Does bringing in a striker really improve that? Something that can, how much more can he improve in that sense? Champions League-wise, they were inches away from a final as well. So I'm interested to see how, yes, it's a role that Pep has needed, fulfilled, but he's managed to make ends this whole time without it. I just wonder how much of an impact can Erling Haaland truly have? And in that sense, does this ultimately give Pep zero excuse to not win a Champions League next season?
That's the thing. That's actually my point is, sure, Haaland's not going to actually increase the trophy cabinet that much more because City already amassed so many trophies year in, year out. But what he is going to do now is give them reason to now finally win the Champions League. Because when Manchester City have really needed goals in these latter stages of the tournament, quarterfinals, semifinals, we've had so many players just fluff their chances. A big one, Raheem Sterling during the COVID days. Wasn't there another miss in this last one with Madrid? Yeah, Jack Grealish. Grealish. When Pep really, really needed one guy to just score, didn't happen. But now you have a guy who literally only scores, right? That's all he does. Yeah. And he's really, really good at it. So now, no excuses. Yeah, they are now the full, complete team. Yes, he wasn't missing goals, but he was missing a guy that you can rely on to score every time. So now that he has that, man, Manchester City have to win the Champions League. They have to. There's no excuses anymore. But I think the thing is that they'll be looking good to actually win it now because now they have that ruthlessness in front of goal, not just coming from talented midfielders or wide from Mahrez, for example.
Right, yeah.
Now they truly have a guy down the middle, a target to aim for, good in the air, big, can turn, can go at pace, and obviously can shoot.
Dude, and how does that impact the rest of the team now? Because this season, everyone had some sort of responsibility to score. Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Riyad Mahrez,
Gundogan at some point this season, man.
Sterling, they just had, because they didn't have that striker in that position, they all had a bigger responsibility. Yeah. But now that's shifting. Now the responsibility is to feed the goddamn robotic monster that is at the center of the pitch, just waiting to bang in goals in any way, shape, or form. And so Pep has, in a way, completed his his dream team.
Yeah.
And it's up to him to close that out, because if not, then he's going to have his critics full throttle if he doesn't complete it this time around.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest final this month has to be the UEFA Champions League between Liverpool and Real Madrid. Liverpool coming off of a victory against Villarreal in the semifinals, where they ultimately pounced and took over a squad that just didn't have enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And Real Madrid coming off of miracle, an incredible comeback victory against Man City. Also coming off of the back of another awesome comeback against PSG.
Yep.
Against
Chelsea.
Against Chelsea.
Yeah.
And formulating what many people are calling the ultimate,
the greatest run of
all time.
Yeah, yeah. Which I'm going to actually go ahead and say maybe not. If you look at Atletico's 2016 run, that was, in my opinion,
who they faced
a lot harder.
Okay.
They had PSV at the time, who were really, they were on top of it offensively.
Okay.
That was under Martin Philippe Cocu was his name. He had a really good project going on at PSV that year, and they were offensive as hell. Atleti were able to keep them 0-0, and they had to win on penalties to get through.
Right.
Then after that, they beat Barca, Bayern Munich, and then obviously they played Real Madrid, took them to penalties. Didn't work out, but hey, it was a really, really difficult run. And for this one, I think it rivals that of Madrid's. Obviously, people are going to say
it's
that.
Better. I think this is better, man, because at the very least, because still during Atletico's run, they were favored to win at least one matchup. Real Madrid hasn't been favored to win any of these matchups. They haven't. Like, odds-wise, Vegas-wise. I'm sure they favored Atleti over PSV for sure.
Absolutely. Based off of that, maybe. But Atletico was only favored against PSV. The rest of those games, they were not favored. The run, it truly is captivating, though, because when you think about it ultimately, it's just like, it's Madrid. It just makes sense. Yeah. When every single game in those second legs where it just worked out for them, I was like, damn, like, I think only Madrid can do something like this in one big run. I heard the word mentality tossed around a lot after that Madrid City game, and it's so true, though. The last 20 minutes, Madrid slowly just took control of the game, and they said, look, we don't have a good chance here. We need 2 goals just to tie it, but we're Madrid, so we're just going to go for it. But it sounds so simple, but almost no club in the world actually does it or even comes close to pulling it off. But Madrid, year in, year out, have games where they just find some sort of magic, truly magic, and it just works out for them. Obviously, they have world-class players where this really helps them shine, right? Dani Carvajal with a perfect cross to Rodrigo. And then even talk about Rodrigo coming off the bench, scoring 2 goals. It's insane to have that type of player who just comes on, says, fuck it, I'm going to score. I'm going to score in a semifinal, and it's going to be easy for me. Wasn't even nervous coming onto the pitch and making a huge impact. Yeah. Think about any other player in any other club. There's going to be nerves, man, but Rodrigo's so cold. He's so cool. Yeah. He's so collected, just like every other player who plays for Madrid. Mm-hmm. Modric, Benzema, Carvajal's already stated. Ramos, when he was there, right? There's so many just world-class players that come to Madrid, but they all share that same winning mentality that says, like, look, we do not care who we're playing. Even if we lose, we do not care. We're gonna outdo you, and they almost always do.
Yeah, and I feel like what we're seeing with this Real Madrid team is the result of a squad that did in fact win 3 back-to-back Champions Leagues, which is a rare feat. Yeah. What we're seeing now is players that went through that experience and now just show no fear, show no no nervousness or anything. Yeah. Imagine someone who went to war 3 times and came out alive every single time. That next war, he's going to be a goddamn monster, bro. Yeah. And it's like, I think we're seeing that. I think that's why it's so unprecedented what they're doing, because it's so gritty and it's such a winner's mentality that they've been showing. Yeah. And beyond what is at the technical level for this team, the biggest thing that does scare me as someone who does support Liverpool going into this final is not the technical factor, but the mental factor, the emotional and momentum factor that is behind this Real Madrid team. That's really scary to face against, because it only comes down to one game now. No longer 2 legs, no longer 180 minutes to formulate a comeback. It's just 90 minutes. Can you win this game or not? Can you just come out on top and beat this other side? It's scary, man. It really is.
But the thing is, that's why I actually have Liverpool as my favorites here, dude. I like like by a good margin too. I think Liverpool are by far the better team, and Madrid have needed 180 minutes to win their games.
Absolutely.
In every single knockout game, they've needed the 180. Liverpool have pretty much in every scenario they've been in this season in Champions League, they've only ever needed 90 minutes. Yeah, they concede goals, but it's over the course of 180. In an encapsulated 90 minutes, Liverpool are so dominant. And I honestly could see the same thing happening here against Madrid where, look, Liverpool obviously want revenge, specifically Mo Salah, man. He's just going to go off. I really do think so. He has so much to play for in this game just on a personal level. A lot, man. But not only him, that entire Liverpool squad has so much to play for here. And it is great that it is against Madrid because, Madrid have been, for 90 minutes out of the 180 in their last games, the clearly inferior side, right? Liverpool have been so dominant this season, man. If they could just pull together another classic, ruthless Liverpool performance, it's over for Madrid. It's over.
I do see if they activate that and if they just can get into that flow, which is what's crazy about this Liverpool squad versus the one that faced Real Madrid in the final few years back is that team had a tougher time getting into that gear, whereas now it's second nature to this team.
Man,
the amount of games they've played leading up to this point, like I've noticed it basically in every single game, they will kick into that gear at some point where they just take over, where they just dominate, pin you back, and just essentially until a goal happens. But you also have to take in, I feel like, being that Real Madrid did pull off these incredible comebacks, you got to point out the fact that they did all these comebacks when they played at home. In every single leg, PSG, Chelsea, and Man City.
Yeah.
Real Madrid at home is a different team. Now we're going to be in Paris, over by the baguettes, by the Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower, City of Love.
City of Love, man. And it's going to be a different story, I think. I predict Liverpool wins this matchup.
Yeah.
I don't know if by a lot. I think it'll be a lot tighter than you think. But I see Liverpool lifting that trophy. Real Madrid sort of, in a way, running out of gas, running out of luck in that sense. I see Liverpool coming out on top and Real Madrid ultimately going home. Yeah. But being proud of what they managed to do because I did not have them in a final before the tournament started.
No. I don't know if any, like truly, I don't know if anybody did. Mm-hmm. One thing I will say, though, as far as the matchup's concerned, I think Ancelotti needs to start Rodrigo. I thought he screwed up by not playing him in that City semifinal. But in every game he's played in, especially the last 2 months, whether it's Champions League, La Liga, dude, he's making such a huge impact offensively, man. And it's nothing against Valverde. I think Valverde is just better. It's more central, more deeper. Put a straight offensive guy like Rodrigo up there, and him, Benzema, and Vinicius Jr. up top, man. That's a deadly front three. Liverpool would hate to face that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That's the thing. They would prefer Valverde start up top, right? But Ancelotti needs to be a little bit more daring here in these 90 minutes, man, or it's just going to be too easy for Liverpool, in my opinion, especially when they have such a stout defense with Van Dijk leading that.
Reversely, I think that Liverpool has to start Konate instead of Matip, which is also a big discussion because Matip is more experienced. But I think that Real Madrid offense has a lot of speed to him, a lot of speed and flair. That Konate being younger, being faster, I think will keep up with them better than Matip. So I think that's also like an interesting decision we'll have to see from Jurgen if he does end up going for experience or athleticism.
Diaz or Jota?
Diaz.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think right now it's pretty clear it's Diaz.
It's pretty clear, man. Yeah. But isn't that crazy that like all of a sudden Liverpool are just getting pretty much any player they want when it comes to like market? Like that's actually kind of rare for a Liverpool team. Like to get, obviously they don't get like the big stars. Yeah. But when they want like a mid to upper tier player, they get them now.
Yeah.
Pretty
that's
easily.
True.
Very, very easily they got Minamino, Jota, and now Luis Diaz just like that.
Yeah, that like and Thiago too, like that 30 to 40 mil range type of player. If they want him and if it's their system, they'll get him no problem. You too, no problem. You rarely see like Liverpool like contest with another club for like a certain player.
Yeah.
I think I had heard that Tottenham.
And they got Konate.
They got Konate.
A highly rated center back from Leipzig. They got him easy.
Yeah,
they're getting a lot of their players now pretty easy, and it's that Klopp dynasty, man.
It's got to be.
He really has built like an incredible infrastructure there. It's so impressive.
It's one hell of a club to sell to someone who isn't playing for you. Like
Yeah.
you just showed Luis Diaz, who's at Porto, like highlights of Anfield, or you just give him an hour there to just explore the field and see what a game is like there. Like I think there's so much that is intriguing about Anfield and Liverpool to an outsider right now. This matchup's gonna be incredible. Regardless, I'm really excited for this one.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be so fun. You know, but what's so interesting though, and this kind of goes back to let's go back to mid 2015, mid 2010s, right?
That was a great time for Champions League.
Great time for Champions League. And I always remembered seeing, obviously Madrid were always gonna reach the semifinals. They're always gonna go deep into it, and there were so many times, especially between 2012 and 2015, where Barcelona and Madrid just could not meet in the final. Yeah. They just couldn't. But there were so many times where I was like, damn, Madrid actually fear Barca more than they fear, for example, a Juventus. Or more so than they fear a German team or an English team, especially at that time. Barcelona was Madrid's kryptonite. Yeah. And Barcelona just could not make it to the final to actually hurt Madrid. So we never got that crazy El Clásico matchup. And I kind of got a similar sense this year when City just could not make it. Because in my opinion, I think City match up better against Liverpool. Yeah. I think if you're Klopp, just from a footballing perspective, you would be more scared of Pep Guardiola's Man City than you are of Ancelotti's Madrid. By far.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I know that every Liverpool fan was rooting for Real Madrid in that semifinal because on the off chance that they would win. Because Man City it's not that they have Liverpool's number, but man, the matchups, the nervousness I feel when I watch those games, they could easily just take over a Liverpool side and almost be their kryptonite in that sense. But isn't that kind of crazy, man, how in sports that this kind of affirmed it for me. The fact that this whole season, it was clear that in world football, the top two teams are Liverpool and Man City. Yeah. That's been clear the whole time out. Right. And during that times too, with Barcelona and Real Madrid, those were the top two teams in the world for 3-4 years. Yeah. Yet they could not make it to that final to meet up and just give us that ultimate epic matchup that we've always dreamed of getting. Instead, it's always the number one team or the number two team facing off against a team that just is on a run. This even transcends other sports, like how a lot of people always wanted to see LeBron face off against Kobe. Right. And it just never happened, despite both of them dominating the NBA landscape for 10 years. Yeah. So it's weird, man. I'm from now on going into Champions League, I'm gonna just not expect that or root for that because, man, I just get my hopes ruined, man. Dude, this whole time I was looking forward to that Liverpool Man City matchup in Paris, forward to it, the ultimate showdown, and we're not gonna get it. Yeah, that's a crazy point. And I guess the beauty of the sport, always. With the final chapter closing in Champions League, I want to come over to North America, where the chapter has been finished, where the book has been closed. A record-breaking conclusion with the first MLS side to ever win the tournament. Seattle Sounders soundly defeated Pumas 3-0 in the second leg to finish off 5-2 on aggregate. The implications of this could be huge. We've been saying on this pod for a while now that MLS is on the come up, or that MLS is at the very least doing things differently now that is in a very positive way. And we've just been trying to get people to see that. At the very least that. For me personally, my whole argument has just been MLS is definitely not what it's stereotyped to be anymore. No. So let's get rid of that stereotype.
Let's just get rid of it. It honestly, it's not even funny anymore because it's so blatantly false. It's so the stereotype of MLS now. At one point, there was some truth in it, but now that stereotype is false. So it's just not even funny.
And so we've been battling with TikTok comments, with YouTube comments, a lot of people about where does MLS stand in the scope of CONCACAF. Yeah. And this result is big. This result is big for that debate. Man. How did you take that victory?
I was so happy. First off, once I saw that the Seattle Sounders had made it to the CONCACAF Champions League final, I knew this was it. I knew it. Not even from a footballing perspective, but solely from a cultural MLS league perspective. Because for decades now, even before the MLS, Seattle has been the cultural hub of club soccer in this country.
Yeah.
So it was pure poetry that Seattle had the chance to not only become the first MLS team to lift this trophy in the CONCACAF Champions League era, but to actually do it. Pure poetry. And it was also funny because there was a stat that said the last Mexican team to lose a Champions League final, it was against a Costa Rican team, was Pumas.
Was Pumas, yeah.
So funny.
They're having a tough week now, especially with Pumas losing against my Chivas. Let's go, baby, 4-1.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful stuff.
Overall, though, the final itself was actually really nicely poised because both teams honestly aren't having that great of a season. They're not doing poorly in their respective leagues, but they're also not doing very, very well. I'd say right now they're both honestly mid-table teams in their respective leagues, right?
Yeah.
Seattle maybe a little bit better, but they're still right now not firing on all cylinders. Same with Pumas. They're in the repechaje as the 12th seed?
Yeah.
So yeah, both teams were nicely poised because one team wasn't just completely more dominant than the other, at least result-wise. So it was kind of nice. You could say, oh, well, Pumas not the best Mexican team. Seattle's not the best MLS, not even close to the best MLS team right now. So I thought the matchup was perfect, honestly, and we saw who won. It was an MLS side. The game itself, though, was so fun to watch because it really was even, not only on paper, but on the pitch, at least for a large portion of this two-legged affair, right? That first game in Mexico was honestly kind of scary from a Seattle perspective because there was a point where I was like, God damn it.
They almost lost their grip on the game.
They almost lost it there.
Yeah.
It would have been really tough to go down 3-0 and then have to take that result back to Seattle. It still could have been done because that Seattle crowd was incredible. Record-breaking. But to not only get a goal back, but to tie it, huge. It shows how good Seattle is. They almost have that, let's just say, that Madrid type of winning mentality, but they always have. That's why they're the most cultured team in the MLS because they have that mentality of winning, and they really showed it in this final.
Yeah, they were clinical this time around. They were able to get that goal before the half to really change the tide, and after halftime, Seattle just took over, and it was rare to see a Pumas opportunity in that game, man. They got completely just bunked in and just taken advantage of, bro.
Oh, yeah. No, Pumas in that second leg, bro, not good.
Not good.
Not good, bro. They could not figure it out.
No, they couldn't. They really
couldn't figure it out. Dineno got 2 touches the entire game.
Yeah, we had players getting shot down across the field, bro. 5 injuries throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool that it is Seattle that does it because, like you said, they are the most cultured team. They have that brand attached to them now that they are the MLS squad.
Yeah.
In the sense almost popularity and dude, since the early days of MLS, they've always been around, man. They were the first team to have a notable crowd that really was a part of the team itself. Kind of how just Anfield is associated with Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's always been known that Seattle specifically has a awesome crowd and atmosphere. Yeah. And so it's very fitting that they managed to do this. Congrats to any Seattle Sounder fans who watch us.
Congratulations, because as any American fan that watching the sport was all a Seattle Sounder fan on that night, man. And dude, they won in style, bro.
Yeah.
Once that second goal went in, everyone's just having a fucking party, man. No. And that third goal, beautiful, bro. Yeah. Really, really nice goals. Really, really nice. And now
what really has got me thinking since the matchup ended is that there's basically 2 sides to how people are taking this result. One side is that MLS is here. MLS has arrived. But not only that, MLS is now set to dominate CONCACAF Champions League, and that there is an idea and vision for these type of people who believe in this ideology that can see MLS just starting to shift the tide in that sense, winning the next 3 out of the next 5, winning the majority. Whereas others are look, they won, MLS got their moment, but let's not forget Liga MX has dominated this landscape for 15 plus years.
Right.
And come back next year and we'll probably win it again. Where do you stand on what does this mean going forward? Or is this more so about just reminding people and letting people know that, hey, MLS isn't as bad as you think, but there's still that chance that Liga MX will continue to dominate or at least win the majority of the next 5 Champions League results?
Yeah, my take. Good Good question. Overall, my take is the MLS is not the better league. I'm not going to go ahead and predict that the MLS goes on to win the next 3 out of 5 or anything, although they could, because that's my ultimate point. The gap between Liga MX and MLS is very, very marginal. It's small. The best teams in the MLS can take on the best teams in Liga MX. It's head-to-head, it's tight, and there's class on both sides. Now that the MLS has finally broken that barrier of winning it, I just kind of see it trading.
Yeah.
Liga MX wins 2, MLS wins 1, Liga MX wins 1, MLS wins 3, Liga MX wins 2. It's just going to go back and forth now because I really do see both leagues as very, very even, especially when it comes to the best teams in each league. I think it just goes toe-to-toe, and they're just going to just trade punches.
Yeah, and in a way, I think that's good for the region. Like, I think that's good for CONCACAF because now that means that we'll be able to send a more assured, better squad out to the Club World Cup to represent the continent. Like, imagine now, whereas before it was like basically who's the best Liga MX squad. Now it's who's the best between these two leagues. That can hopefully better perform in a Club World Cup and maybe one day perform something that is unimaginable, like
winning
it. But I see. So ultimately, I think this has good implications. But let's not forget there is a rivalry between just U.S. and Mexico and anything related to those two countries when it comes to this sport. So I don't know. I'm excited to see the duels that are going to happen from here on out because now it's like, okay, they finally arrived. Our opponents are finally here. We've been waiting at the bus stop. And they're finally here, man.
They're here, man.
Let's do this thing. Let's fucking compete.
Yeah.
And let's use this like competition to help better each league and the quality of each squad as well.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a minute to take a break and give a shout out to our sponsors. That's BetUS. You heard it, BetUS. It's an online sports gambling website where you can make so many different types of bets. With all these finals coming up, I mean, I think it's a great thing to get into these matches, even if your team isn't involved. You're not a Real Madrid fan, you're not a Liverpool fan. Put a bet in, and suddenly you will become a Liverpool fan or a Real Madrid fan, man.
Absolutely,
like, it's crazy,
man. Absolutely.
Man.
Your adrenaline's gonna be peaking.
And what's awesome is that like they got a bunch of deals right now, where like, especially if you haven't used their site, you can basically make a good number of bets for free because they will double your deposit. They have a 125% sign up bonus right now. The deals are just ridiculous. They really want to bring in people to just be part of this betting community. And I think it's great. The interface is great. The whole way it's set up, I'm like, man, like I wish I knew about this earlier. So, so I could have been making bets and everything and cashing out on my predictions. So yeah, guys, if you want to give it a shot and you want to join this betting community, if you want to join BetUS, you can do it while using our promo code GIVENGO. That's right, exactly like how it's spelled on our channel. Give letter N go. And you can just support the channel, man. You know, we were just getting started off, and we're doing this solely by our own volition. And any type of support is appreciated, and you can show it by signing up for BetUS. So, once again, guys, thanks so much, and good luck betting. So, next tournament that we have up is the Europa League final between Frankfurt and Rangers. And personally, what I love about this matchup is the fact that in the past, like 10 years, I feel like it's been pretty common to have a team in the final that's from like one of the top 3 leagues in the world. You know, you usually get like your like Chelsea, who like disappointed in the Champions League, but then just took care of business in Europa League and found themselves in the final. Sevilla from La Liga. Man United was there at one point. Liverpool at one point. This feels like the first time, or at least in recent memory, that we have a team that isn't from those leagues. We've got a German side that's in 10th place right now. Facing off against a Scottish side. Which, to even just say that, is pretty crazy, man.
It's very crazy. Honestly, so ever since Gerrard started coaching there, obviously he's not the coach there anymore, but he started coaching there a couple years ago, and they started getting into the knockout stages of the Europa League. And I was like, that's interesting. Because I don't rate the Scottish League whatsoever. No matter how good Celtic and Rangers are, I don't rate it.
Right.
So
I don't think they've given you any reason to.
Yeah,
man.
that's
like,
the thing.
Outside of like
there's
locally,
no disrespect.
Yeah, outside of locally, you just wouldn't.
Yeah. So it's like, sure.
Or the fact that they did breed Van Dijk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Right, but for me to even think that they could get even close to like a quarterfinal, even the Europa League, the Europa League, where you still have good quality in mid-tier English, Spanish, German, Italian teams. For them to actually make a final, so impressive. So impressive. But again, they've low-key been foreshadowing this for the last, 4 years. Every year they've been getting slightly closer.
There's a reason that it's also Rangers and not Celtic, because Gerrard was the first manager that
yes,
won the title with Rangers after a long spell of Celtic winning it
yes,
in the Scottish League, and even went on an unbeaten streak or something like that. He broke shit ton of records over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been foreshadowed in a sense, and it is telling that it's Rangers that are here and not Celtic. So if we have any Celtic fans,
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because you look at that table for the last decade, and it really was Celtic for so long. Rangers were the second division, I think, not too long ago. So yeah, for them to actually be the Scottish team to make a final, my God, honestly,
European final, bro.
The scenes are gonna be insane.
They've already been insane, dude. The fucking drone shot that they have at their stadium is ridiculous.
Oh, I love their.
You know what I'm
stadium,
talking about?
bro.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
They're upper deck, they just a fucking seagull just flies through the crowd. It's crazy.
It's crazy, man. But equally as passionate, man, these Frankfurt fans, man. My God.
Yeah.
And they're just as grateful and honored to be a part of this final themselves. But the thing is, just like Rangers, completely deserve to be here.
Similarly to Madrid, Frankfurt is on a run of their own where they're taking down giants.
Yeah.
Maybe not in how they're playing right now. For example, Barcelona, not the best team in the world right now, but
to still beat them.
That's a name, man.
Yeah.
That is a name. And to beat them the way they did too.
Yeah.
Whew. And then you look at West Ham, another strong English side, been on the
Yes.
come up for a long time. Took care of business.
Yeah.
Just took care of business.
Yeah.
That second leg game, they were by far the better team. Aaron Cresswell fucked his team up, man. 2 red cards back-to-back games, bro. Who does that?
Yeah, it's tough.
Aaron. But that's huge, man. That's an awesome thing to be a part of. And you can tell that these Frankfurt fans are they're appreciative and aware of the opportunity at hand with them being able to take down those big teams and now being set up to potentially be European Cup winners.
Yeah, and just personally, I've been watching Frankfurt for a while now because I've always respected how they approach the game. Very offensive and honestly with a decent amount of flair.
Yeah.
Just the players that they get may not be the best, but I just like the way that they play.
Yeah.
And I remember they got players I remember when Marko Fabian was there for a little bit. Oh, they got the Croatian coach too, and he was in charge for a while too. And so Andre Silva was there at one point. So I've always loved the type of players that Frankfurt attracts.
Yeah.
But
dogs.
All that being said, they've never really been able to use it towards anything. They always have good runs in the Bundesliga. Maybe they get kind of close to a Champions League spot, right? Obviously, they are good enough to be in a Europa League spot, so mid to upper mid-table, but it's never culminated in anything close.
Whoa, yeah.
Anything close to as big as this. So I'm stoked that they've actually been able to make it so far in this tournament because I just love it when teams, especially mid-table teams, because they're never going to really achieve anything. But when one team gets close to doing it, it's so awesome. I'm so happy that Frankfurt is here, but it's even crazier that they're playing Rangers as their opponent.
Yeah.
Because then it goes twofold.
Yeah, basically the idea of having a philosophy that no matter how you perform and what the results are, you just stick to it.
Yeah.
That's what I just thought of when you mentioned Frankfurt. I'm like, dude, yeah, they've always selected a certain type of player.
Yeah.
Just like how Liverpool has a certain type of player that fits their mold.
Yes.
Frankfurt has been just that stubborn despite not having the same results of
not even
any
close,
type of silverware.
man. Not even close.
So it is in a way dope to see a team finally get rewarded in that sense because
that's what I'm saying.
You got players like Kostic,
big
Borre,
fan.
who's fucking killing it right now in the Europa League. Just got him too. It's crazy. I saw he's only scored 1 goal in the Bundesliga, but he is killing it in the Europa League. Just this Europa League killer. Yeah. This is a type of player that exists that they've kind of kept their eyes out for, and they're seeing it culminate now in a Europa League final, which is super dope. But like you're about to say, Rangers is basically the same thing.
It's the same thing
in Scotland.
Exactly.
Yeah, they got the same type of different philosophy that they just stick to.
Yeah.
And that's gotten them to this point.
Yeah.
And so, man, I've struggled a lot to figure out who I'm gonna root for. This might be one of the games.
That's a tough question, man.
This might be one of the games that I just watch as like a neutral,
bro.
Just enjoy it for what it is, because
Yeah.
both teams have awesome fan bases. Both teams have really cool squads and philosophies.
Man, yeah.
Like, man, this is gonna be a great final, and I'm truly excited to see it.
Same.
You know, one of these squads lift a trophy, bro. Like, it's gonna be huge for whichever fan base that ends up doing it.
Yeah, and finally, the Europa League. Like, this final is why they made the Conference League. These two teams are supposed to be in the final in the Conference League, basically. But finally, the Europa League actually has two, well, I can safely say, mid-tier European teams.
Right.
Because that's how you preface this. We've never gotten that. But now we finally did, the same year that there is a Conference League.
You're right. Yeah. Like that you would think that this would be the ultimate goal for Europa League year in, year out.
You're out. This is the ultimate goal right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Europa Conference League now has Roma facing off against Feyenoord from the Netherlands, and another, awesome tournament that's happening because this is our first time around seeing this thing out, seeing what it's like. I think that before we even go into the final, I would like to know your thoughts on the tournament itself. How do you feel about it? About the fact that they've decided to throw in this third European tournament into the mix to kind of just see how people react to it. I personally have really liked it, bro, because I've been watching a lot of the games, and I just see how much these fans care. They care equally as much as they would if they were in the Europa League or even the Champions League. Like, these stadiums are still packed. That Feyenoord game that we saw, the crowd was standing for 90 minutes straight, bro. Man. It was an insane scene. And Feyenoord would have never gotten an opportunity at that if this tournament didn't exist. I do like it from that sense, but from another sense, I'm also like, man, do we got to hand out this many trophies? It's like giving participation medals at this point. If these teams ultimately aren't the best in their region, do they deserve a shot at silverware still?
At this point, there are several top European leagues where like half of the table is qualifying for something.
Yeah.
And it's just overkill for me. It's too much. What I do like, though, is yes, it gives these truly, truly, truly mid-table teams a chance at European glory, right? I mean, just as you pointed out, these fans know that these are European games. They're on European nights, just like the Champions League. Yeah. So it has that same aura, that same feel as a Champions League game. And they're just as intense because it's against equal opposition. It's not like Feyenoord's playing against Madrid or Manchester City, where the fans know they're going to get thrashed 4-0, right? Yeah. So for that reason, you get these really entertaining games where it's just back and forth, 2-2, 3-0, whatever you want. And it makes for great entertainment, which is why this league has been really fun. And that's a positive I'll give for it. The entertainment factor has been great. But ultimately, I just think it's too much because then you have a tier for the Champions League, a tier for the Europa League, a tier for the Conference League. You theoretically could have a fourth tier, right? The tier right above the relegation zone.
I was going to say, bro, imagine a tournament of teams that are in relegation.
Right. That's the thing, man.
It's the best of the worst.
So what I would propose, obviously it'll never happen, is you just have this tournament less frequently. So maybe maybe once every 2 years, once every 3 years. That way, maybe it gives a little bit more weight to the league, knowing that, if we finish 8th this year, then we're in the Conference League. But if you're on the year where the Conference League is landing, that's going to be a really big year for you. But then again, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to stick to it year in, year out for sure. But the implications of them, just like at this point, are we going to add something else extra that isn't really necessary? But I've noticed the toll that it takes to participate in European competition is also like something that does have an impact on a team, man. Really only the best of the best teams can handle it, like physically and quality wise. Like at one point the squad gets so watered down with all these tournaments they have to participate in that lots of these clubs, I feel like, don't have that capacity. And the Conference League is essentially picking out the weakest teams to do that. Yeah. Because then you got like an 8th place Premier League squad, which could, end up being a team that it could have been like Aston Villa last year, who just got promoted, then have to deal with like the financial side of having to build a squad that's deep enough to participate in a Europa League in the Europa Conference League. Yeah. And that does have an impact, man. That does have an impact on like the quality that you perform at in your league, in your league cups, and then the European nights as well. So That's an interesting aspect that I've been thinking about. Is just what's that look like ultimately? But
Right.
regardless, we've got a final now between Roma and Feyenoord, which at the end of the day is a pretty unique matchup as well, man. We got a Dutch side that isn't Ajax or
That's
or,
true. PSV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true.
Roma, we spoke about them last pod where we would rate Mourinho's first season there and overall the squad as a positive experience.
Yeah.
He's in a way maxed out everything this Roma squad can do.
Yeah.
And he's just showing that on full display, man. He was out there crying,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
Crying.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, this is European silverware.
Yeah.
And for a team like Roma, or Feyenoord even for that matter, this is big.
Yeah.
It is big because Roma's not going to win Serie A with the teams that are up there right now. Inter, AC Milan, even Napoli, even Juve, even now. It's almost impossible for Roma's squad to truly compete for a Serie A title. So this is the next best thing. So for Mourinho to get here, he really wants this trophy, as would any Roma fan, Roma player.
Yeah, Feyenoord on the other side is probably not going to never going to be able to make a deep run in a Champions League.
It's the exact same
but
thing.
They have a shot now to do it in a European tournament. And so, man, some awesome implications here because of that. Who do you got winning this matchup?
Honestly, I have Roma winning this matchup only because I don't know that seeing Feyenoord play against Marseille, they played obviously incredibly well in that home game. But honestly, I think Marseille just weren't over the course of 180 minutes that great of an opposition.
Yeah,
I see Roma as just a better, more complete team. And I think Mourinho's actually gonna have an impact. He's gonna get into the heads of his own Roma players and be like, let's focus, boys.
He knows finals.
Like, he knows finals, man. It's gonna drive them, I think, to dominate this Feyenoord side. Now, all that being said, Feyenoord still have some really good firepower. They're here for a reason. They know how to play. So I think it'll be a fun final. But I got Roma going through.
Yeah, Roma I think is more well equipped for a final.
Yes.
But Feyenoord's got a little bit to him, bro. The way I saw that whole stadium packed and the way that those people believed in that squad, man, I was like, maybe I'm not seeing something because I haven't followed them the whole season. I haven't seen what their 2021, 2022 has looked like. I just kind of seen the last bits and pieces of this run. It's awesome that they're here. I'm happy for them, but I just think that Roma has too much quality. They're closer to being more of a Europa League squad than they are to a Europa Conference League squad. And so I think they'll take care of business. It's going to be fun to watch the first Europa Conference League final that we've ever experienced.
Yeah.
It'll be a
Why
good
not,
night, man.
Yeah.
To have a beer and just catch the game, catch a final. The last final I want to talk about is this week with Chelsea facing off against Liverpool in the FA Cup final. Liverpool going for their second title now. They won the Carabao Cup against Chelsea. Let's talk about a few things here. Let's talk about Liverpool's chances at a quadruple while also talking about this matchup that sees Chelsea now in a completely different place from where they were at the beginning of the season, man. When we started this podcast, 5 months ago, we were actually looking at a Premier League table that had Chelsea, I think, above Liverpool for a good few weeks.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, man, what if Chelsea were able to pull off the impossible and beat a Man City side with the squad that they have and the way they were stringing out results.
Yeah. Fast
Fast forward a few months and they've completely declined. They that luck ran out, that their flaws have been exposed more so, and we're seeing a team that's now struggling to even be in third place. They might flip with Arsenal.
Right.
They have a chance here though to win a cup final after losing one already, where they nearly won. Nearly, bro.
Nearly.
As close as you could get without winning.
Yeah.
And they have the opportunity against a Liverpool side that they've shown they can match up against over not even 90, 120 minutes.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we have Liverpool, who have been seeking glory, who at the beginning of the season were not picked to be the Premier League winners. We're not picked to be Champions League winners.
Yeah.
We're just coming off a bad season last year with so many injuries and COVID and whatnot. Different idea about this Liverpool squad. Fast forward, and this is already we're starting to hear arguments for possibly one of the best English sides of all time.
Yeah.
They've got a trophy under the belt. They've got a final waiting for them in the Champions League. And they've got a 3-point gap now between them and Man City that at one point was just 1 point and had people dreaming of a quadruple. Do you think the quadruple is still possible? Yeah. Do you think it will ever be possible for any team?
Ultimately, I think this just comes down to destiny. I think this doesn't come down to, so let's just start with the FA Cup because Liverpool have already won the League Cup. against Chelsea, right? So now it's the same team, but as you just so perfectly put, Chelsea can match up. Tuchel, when he's in a final, he gets revved up, man. So does all the Chelsea fans, all the Chelsea players. No glory and silverware is at stake. It doesn't matter how far they've turned off, especially since the turn of the new year. Doesn't matter. They're going to show up at Wembley for this final. They're going to. And so they can win this game. They can. Maybe 1-0, 2-1. They could. They have the firepower to do it, and maybe Liverpool, as they showed against Tottenham, maybe they just fall a little short. It can happen over the course of one game, especially if you're playing against a good opposition. So this is just going to come down to not who's the better team. This is just going to come down to destiny. Yeah. That's what this month is going to come down to. Liverpool have 1 trophy. There's 3 remaining. There's a 3-point gap now for the Premier League, right? 3-point gap. I think City overall still have the more favorable schedule remaining. That's going to be tough. Liverpool, it's basically out of their hands. It's destiny.
Yeah.
Destiny will decide if Manchester City drop points or not. Yeah. As stupid as that sounds, that's what it's going to be. It was destiny that Aguero would score that crazy goal against Queen's Park Rangers for them to win their first title of the Premier League, 9 years ago, whenever the hell it was. That was destiny, the way that it happened. It was not meant to be any other way. Yeah. It could have. There was so many other permutations that could have happened, but of course it happened that one way. If Liverpool's to win the quadruple, something that has never been attained before, if it's not Liverpool, if it's any team who's ever on par for the quadruple, it will be solely because of destiny. Yeah. There's too many variables for them to be like, oh, we're going to bag these 4 trophies like that. Yeah. It's almost impossible to even think that. There's just so many variables going into finals, going into a league where you have a team like Manchester City as your opponent. It's so hard to just guarantee it or even come close to guaranteeing it, especially when 3 out of these 4 trophies are finals. Yeah. and then the other trophy is the exact opposite of that, where it's a grueling 38-game season. Yeah. The variables are ridiculously high that there's only one thing that will attain you 4 trophies at the end of the season, and that's purely destiny.
Dude, yeah, and it's ridiculous, though, because right now, as of this moment, the only thing keeping them from that, assuming they were to win their finals, would be 3 points. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. That's insane. If they just take care of business against Chelsea, if they do what they need to do against Real Madrid, which obviously those are big things to say, but those are one-off games. They can do it. Those are one-off games. I'm talking about the league is the biggest one, I think, in the sense of the highest difficulty to get right now. Right. And all that's between them and that is 3 points. That's ridiculous, man. God damn. It's crazy. It's crazy, I don't like that at all. It is almost to an existential point.
It's existential.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through some of these questions that we received through our Instagram DMs. I asked on our story to ask us anything and see what we get. And once again, our viewers came through, man. We got so many questions, and we're not going to answer all of them, but we're going to answer a few just for fun to see what we can talk about. So, who's the most underappreciated Mexican player?
Yeah, I got a good one.
Who you got?
And this one comes to my mind immediately when I hear not underrated, but underappreciated. Yeah. And that is Carlos El Gulit Peña.
Ah, okay.
The man in his prime between 2000, I'm gonna go and say 2011, sure. But more realistically 2012 to 2014, 2015, that 2 to 4 year period, Carlos El Gulit Peña was one of the best central midfielders in Mexico. And for the most part, wasn't really praised by a lot of fan-wise, sure. But for the most part, wasn't really praised by the pundits, the Mexican media, or by even Miguel Herrera in that World Cup. And that's where that really stings for me personally, because going into that World Cup, he was on fire for León. Offensively, man, that guy could just pick out any pass that he wanted in Liga MX for one of the best teams at that time with León. And when they needed, I felt like they needed a dog in that midfield because Montes ended up going out injured prior to that World Cup. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, we didn't have that really physical or offensive presence in that midfield going to the World Cup.
No,
he got called up.
No, he did.
But ultimately didn't really play.
Yeah, it was the Gallito Vasquez who played.
Yeah, which is great.
Which was great.
Great,
with
but
Guardado, I think.
For me, Peña's offensive ability, no other Mexican midfielder could really match that.
Okay.
And when I felt like when Mexico really needed to go at teams, they didn't. But I felt like Peña could have really changed that.
Yeah.
And he was also just an incredible ball handler, especially at that time in his prime. So I think he would have helped retain the ball better, especially when Mexico would take on pressure. So, for me, underappreciated, I'm going Carlos Aguli Peña.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. That's a good shout. For me, the most underappreciated player, off the top of my head, I never hear anything about this player. One of the most consistent Mexicans of all time. Yeah. And this is going to hurt coming from a Chivas fan. Pavel Pardo, who played for America at right back, was our right back for 2006. For a good 5 years, he was the most consistent, most reliable fullback that we had. And he just set the tone for future fullbacks to almost like as a role model to represent that position. It's crazy, man. You look at the players that have been fullbacks for us since then. We had Headless Chicken, Miguel Layun, part of the squad. We had Paul Aguilar, who was solid for a while and emulated Pavel Pardo a lot, actually. Yeah. But still didn't reach the level that I think Pavel Pardo had. Pavel Pardo was so good at like switching up play. He's got the switching that ball over and just like breaking layers of the defense so that we could go on attack. He had this awesome highlight against, I think, Chivas in one of the Clásicos in like 2005 where he sent a long ball from like his end of the pitch, sends it across, almost like how Van Dijk will send a deep ball to like Salah and then just start an offense off of that. He did the exact same thing, and America had their eccentric forwards at the time that would just finish off all his passes. Yeah. He was so reliable. I think he's one of the most capped Mexicans as well. Mm-hmm. And just part of that era and generation of Mexican players that had a little bit of almost like that mid-2000s player build. Was a leader, was reliable, cared about his job, passionate but professional. Yeah. And wasn't about anything else beyond that. Okay. And I think that's kind of why he's underappreciated, because he really was never outspoken. Yeah. He's like one of those, soft-spoken guys that just took care of his business and did his job. And so Pavel Pardo for me is one of the most underappreciated Mexican players.
I like that one because just in terms of like social circles, media, YouTube comments, I don't think the name Pavel Pardo has been typed, spoken, or written in over a decade, dude. Probably.
Yeah. And honestly, a big factor has to be his lack of involvement in like Mexican or U.S. media posts, because so many players love doing that, especially Mexicans love doing that after their careers are done, and he just took no part in it. Louis Anthony asks, if you could go to any past match in your lifetime, where would you go? If we're going club, I'm saying I got a couple answers for there, but I would say Liverpool's comeback against Barcelona 4-0. I would love to have been there. Yeah. Internationally, I would have loved to have been at the Germany-Mexico game where Chucky scored and got the lead. I would love to have been there. Throw some beer into the crowd, be part of that crowd.
That would have been psychedelic.
And in terms of Chivas, I would have loved to have been at the Chivas match where they beat Boca Juniors 4-0 in El Estadio Jalisco. But regardless of teams that I support, just a game where it would have been amazing to be at, I would say one of those Barcelona versus Real Madrid early 2000 matchups.
Oh, okay.
One of those. I would have loved to have been at one of those because those stakes felt big. The stage was epic. Yeah. And that's probably the most bang for buck you would get in regards of stars.
Yeah,
you pay
$100.
You pay $100 for a ticket, but you get to see 22 of the best, greatest players in the world at one time.
I think for me, definitively, if I could go back to the past and watch any game, I would go back to that 2014 UEFA Champions League final where Atletico lost painstakingly, excruciatingly to Real Madrid.
Why would you want to see a loss?
Yeah. I think it would just fit my narrative. It would build character, and it would be something that I'd truly never forget. Yeah, like I would have
low key trauma.
It'd be traumatic. I'd have PTSD every time I see any guy named Ramos jump. But I would have loved to have been there.
Best soccer match you watched live that kept you on your toes. For me, it's a pretty easy pick. Maybe it didn't keep me on my toes, but the stardom at display and how rare of an occasion it was is what kept me on my toes. It was the 2017 Barcelona faced off against Real Madrid in the Estadio Bernabeu.
Yeah.
And we went with our friend Daniel.
Yeah.
We pulled
Shout
up,
out.
bro. The Give and Go pulled up, and we saw what was, I believe, the last matchup between Messi and Ronaldo in the league.
In the Bernabeu.
In the Bernabeu.
Yeah, that was a hell of a match. But you're right. Like, seeing that game, especially, truly years ago now,
Yeah.
but knowing that we were going to see Messi and Ronaldo, it really was almost like it felt like we were kids. Like,
Dude,
just like,
yeah.
we were just so like in shock of seeing these guys that we've idolized for so long, but actually going to Europe and watching them play live.
Yeah.
That truly was special.
Yeah, I remember one of my biggest takeaways from watching that game is I was looking at Ronaldo's movements when he was just, not on the ball, just like walking and running around. I was like, dude, he's so robotic in how he plays. The way he runs, it's like kind of stiff, but he's like, it's all form. It's all about function.
Efficiency.
Yeah, function over form.
Yeah.
He's just straight like every movement is so calculated. I was like, this is so interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And that was the iconic game where Barcelona ended up defeating Real Madrid 3-0. And there's that famous photo of Messi holding up his hands like this to the crowd. That was on the opposite side of us. Regardless of the fact that I was rooting for Real Madrid that game, it was still an awesome thing to see. Just these just to see all these legends on the same pitch and put on what was an awesome game at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was dope. I have one that I vividly remember, and it kept me on my toes not because the game was close, but because it was such a blowout, but purely because there was so much class on the pitch.
Oh, shit.
And it was the Copa America Centenario semifinal, Argentina against the U.S.
Oh.
Game was in Houston at the NRG Stadium.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was the first time that I had seen Messi play live. And it was honestly surreal because it was Messi in America playing in a highly competitive match. Because usually when he's here, it's July and it's like, he's just chilling, like maybe not even playing. They're here for like off-season tour, right? But this was like high stakes. Argentines were in Houston, and obviously the U.S. themselves, big fan base, coming all together in one stadium to see the semifinal play out. And Argentina ended up winning the game, I think 4-0, 4-1. But Messi went off, scored a beautiful free kick.
Top bins,
saw that shit live. So that one's stuck in my head.
That's a really good one.
It's
bro.
It was such a really cool moment to witness.
Yeah, what a rare matchup, and also like
that too. Yeah,
setting and
the setting,
stage,
bro,
and everything.
Everything about that game was just so different than what we're used to.
Fucking talk about Arsenal. You've neglected them for too long, says Walter Davis one.
I'm not talking about Arsenal, bro. I'm not. It is pretty crazy though that they've had such a successful season the way that they've done it.
I think so.
Yeah, it's actually impressive. Starting at the beginning of the season, there was so much kind of uneasiness of, is Arteta the right guy?
And that was a big part of that group of people that was saying no.
Yeah,
No.
and the thing is, there were some right things about that critique, but there was also some wrong things because he had shown that, maybe he just needs a couple of players that fit his style, and it could work, right? For example, when they were able to get Odegaard like in the middle of last season, and then they're able to keep him this season, that was big because Odegaard came in, had a good impact. Not that he scored or assisted a lot of goals, but you could see that he enjoyed playing on Arteta.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you could see that freedom. And then that ended up being accentuated by players like Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, that type of freedom play. You just play really good offensive football. And so you could kind of see that Arteta had the right idea, but could that culminate into the right results?
Yeah.
So that's ultimately, I think, what the Arsenal board was going to see at the end of the season. But my God, like, they're in a Champions League spot.
They're in a Champions League spot now.
Yeah.
No, and it's, I do got to give credit to Arteta for what he's managed to do at this point because, Yeah, he had a pretty big offseason in terms of purchases. He went shopping, man.
No, he went shopping, man. He went
got
shopping.
Himself basically whatever he wanted at any position, he got it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why that pressure also just builds up because they did spend a lot. What's funny is it started off really bad with them losing against Brentford.
Yes, I remember
And
that.
like, you know, those early games can define so much about the tone set around a team.
Bro.
And it's not until now that people are finally starting to switch back and be like, okay, Arsenal is actually very formidable. And I was thinking about it too. Like when you think about teams outside the top three, because I feel like Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea are not just in another tier that these other squads in the Premier League are not at, but I feel like in terms of projects, like they're much deeper into their projects as these other teams.
Good point.
And so I was thinking, which of those teams that's outside the top three has a better project right now? Is it Arsenal, Manchester United, Tottenham, and then you can throw in like West Ham or Leicester. But project-wise, like for what's being built for the future, to me it's clear that it's Arsenal.
Clearly Arsenal when you put it like that, bro.
It's clearly and not just in how they're playing right now, but the fact that so many of their players are so young. Yeah. That I think actually like their average squad is young enough to play in the U23 Premier League. Like they could actually like play their starting squad in that league. So it is pretty crazy what they managed to do, and
it's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Arteta's looking much better towards the end of the season than he was at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
If you could bring back a past player to play for this current Mexico team, who would it be? That's kind of fun because it's like, all right, of all the past players, who could just have the biggest impact?
Yeah, just straight off the bat, come in and you're like excited to see him play.
Yeah, Conejo Perez, bro.
Yeah?
No.
I was like, what?
El Conejito. I'm not going to say a striker because I think we have enough quality up top. We need someone that can feed them from the midfield. We need a killer midfielder.
I'd bring back 2010, 2011 Giovanni Dos Santos.
Shit.
Specifically.
Shit, okay.
I want a young, doesn't know what the sport is yet, Gio.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, long hair too, like
yeah.
breaking lines and just
breaking lines, no fear, and is just playing for the love of the game.
For me, it's two players, legends, because at the end of the day, I'm just gonna pick the best of the best. Would love to bring in prime Rafa Marquez. The security that would give us,
the security, the leadership is
the composure.
It's immense.
Him or for functionality in terms of like you bring this guy in. And he might be the one piece that we need beyond a defender. Give me prime attacking midfielder Cuauhtémoc Blanco.
Okay.
Who was able to get by players, be physical, and feed people and score goals himself. Be a leader just like Rafa Marquez was. Give me him, and maybe this team can just suddenly mold together, man. Yeah. I wish this was like a real thing, though.
Damn,
man,
so
nice.
Like,
God damn. I mean, imagine if just every coach was able to bring one past player into the squad going into a World Cup.
It's like,
Any
it's
player.
like playing a video game at that point, man. Jeez.
New Mex Raver asks, who was the best goalkeeper of all time? But I would reshape this as who's the best goalkeeper that you've ever seen?
My brain immediately goes to Gigi Buffon. That's what my brain goes to. The amount of big games that he's been in, the amount of titles that he's won, and not only that, in those big games, Buffon has made some incredible stops. Incredible. He's an incredible shot stopper. He was never known for playing from the back.
Yeah,
but he was from a time where they didn't need to.
That's
not something
it's almost like irrelevant, I would say.
I would say that's an irrelevant point. So you take that out, I probably would say Buffon.
Fuck, man. This is tough. I think Buffon for his longevity too. That too, like you really gotta give him because even when he was like 40, bro, he was still really, really good. Like he didn't deteriorate like a lot of other players.
Yeah, Serie A, Champions League, World Cup,
PSG,
but
World Cup too. He
is one of the biggest trophies. And he's been a big part of those trophies. It's not like he was just in the backseat of winning it with him.
I would say that Gigi Buffon is probably the safest pick for this question.
I think it's the safest one, but
very safe.
I think there is genuine merit. I can't. I mean, obviously, there's some top goalkeepers out there. There have been top goalkeepers, but the best one, man, the best one.
You don't think Manuel Neuer is in that conversation? I think he's in the conversation, man. I think he's in the conversation with how he revolutionized a keeper's
sweeper keeper.
Yeah, sweeper keeper, bro. But not just that, like actual shot stopping.
He's a good
ability
shot stopper.
Is fucking
He's
incredible.
really good. He's
incredible.
really good.
Won the trophies as
He's
well.
won the same trophy.
I think he deserves a shout. I think he's in that upper echelon with Gigi Buffon. They eat at the same table.
They eat at the same table.
But there's also other goalkeepers where I'm like, man, their peaks were really, really good. Maybe they weren't as good for as long, but
Geronimo Rulli. Dude was ass in that semis, bro. It was so bad.
I would say that Keylor Navas deserves a shout.
Oh, I was going to say that too. In terms of heights, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The guy not carried, but was an integral part of the Costa Rican squad that was so popular, and rightly so, in 2014. And, I mean, you can just list off the numerous accolades he's won at club level, man.
Yeah.
But you think about how he came to those accolades, it's because he was good. Not only good, but elite.
So good that he, which you got to take into account, like from where he's from.
Yes.
You got to be extra good.
You have to be
really
extra good.
Put yourself on the radar too.
That's the thing. Goalkeeper at Levante, as from the scout from Madrid was like, look, the next best keeper I can find is this guy from Levante.
Yeah, it's
Costa Rican Keylor Navas. We gotta buy him.
Can you imagine how much convincing that must have taken for the board, man?
That's what I'm saying.
And then for Keylor to show up in that cold atmosphere, I bet, where everyone's European. And just take over that starting position.
Take over, bro.
Off of one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, Iker Casillas.
That's true.
Who also deserves a shout. Coming off the back of him leaving Real Madrid, who follows him up? Is it some keeper that's at Chelsea who's moving his way over here?
Yeah.
Some keeper from some other big team?
Yeah.
It's fucking Keylor Navas, bro.
Exactly.
Navas, man. Who just takes over the spot and holds his ground there for what was Real Madrid's most victorious period of 3 straight Champions League trophies.
Yeah.
Man. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
At the very least, he deserves respect, man. That is
absolutely
incredible.
And and just for the future, like if we ask this question in the next 5 years, I feel like at that point you could probably say Alisson or Ederson.
Dude, I think Alisson is such a different type of goalkeeper. I don't think I've seen a more calm goalkeeper. And I noticed that because,
I like that.
Man, every time I watch, I'm like, for a good while, I was like, Alisson's good, but I've never see him pull off a spectacular save. I said this for the first season he was at Liverpool.
Yeah.
He did have some amazing saves, but not as many as other top goalkeepers. And I was like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then I started to realize this dude's positioning is fucking God tier.
Yeah, God tier.
The way he anticipates where a shot's going to go or how he positions his feet and his body to prepare himself for a shot of where it might be and just having such a good percentage of guessing.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this guy's incredible.
Yeah.
His build is really good, strong as well, can play from the back. They said growing up he was a midfielder in Brazil, so he's got that skill.
Yeah.
And I think what the aura that he gives out as a goalkeeper is truly special, man. And if he just keeps going where winning trophies with Liverpool and stuff, he's gonna have a big argument as well.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on people calling football soccer?
My perception on this is purely semantic. So it doesn't matter what you call it because at the end of the day, we all speak different languages in general. Italians call it calcio. Germans call it foosball. English people call it football.
Yeah.
Americans and Australians call it soccer. Spaniards call it football. If you're Portuguese, you call it fuchiball.
Yeah.
There's no one way to say it. It doesn't matter where you're from. You're going to say it a different way. So purely from a phonetic, semantic point of view, it does not matter what you call it because no two cultures will call it the same thing. That's as simple as it gets. So if you have a problem with what the sport is called, then you don't get the beauty of the sport. You don't get it.
You're worried about way lesser things, man. If you're worried about that.
If you're worried about that, you don't understand how beautiful it is that a Costa Rican can play in Madrid and be one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. You don't get how a mid-country in Africa can make a big run in Africa Cup of Nations. You don't understand the beauty of how Peruvian sees the game. Yeah. You don't get it if you're caught up in is what you call the game. Because at that point, you don't respect the international aspect of the game.
That's what I was going to point out. What is beautiful about soccer beyond even the game is just the worldview that it provides to you. In sports in general, what I love about them is that they can give you perspective, man. You learn so much as a kid watching these games, watching the players that participate in all these matches and being like, yo, that's dope that a Costa Rican is starting at goalkeeper for one of the maybe the biggest club in the sport of football.
Yeah.
And
it's so dope to know.
Like, that's part of the experience of watching and learning about sports. So I kind of get that you're coming from like an educational level of almost just like, you know, to be so critical of the way people in certain areas of the world call the sport kind of goes against the sport itself.
It goes completely against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the surface, because we do got to acknowledge the surface side of this, is that people associate the word soccer with American because that is the American word for it.
Yeah.
And thus they associate American with lack of knowing
soccer
or football or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's where the elitism comes in and just this idea of like,
ruins it.
Yeah, it just ruins it. It ruins the whole party, man. But we say both, and like
we say both, and
I understand you the whole time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and so that's a great topic, man. But hopefully one day that stigma can be taken down.
Yeah, because like if you really think about it, there's no argument for that other side. Like you can only go against
without
it.
being an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. There is no argument to be like, oh, you can't call it soccer. There's no argument.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's stupid to entertain, and I hate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys listening once again, watching us on all our social media sites, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify. Stay up to date. And thank you guys for your questions. Thanks for everything you guys send in. I wish we could have gotten to all of it, but man, we'd be talking for 5 hours if we answer all these questions. So once again, guys, this is the Give and Go. We'll be back soon. We'll be back soon with a proper setup next time. Big shout out to our guy, producer Rudd, for all that he does. So.
Miss that guy.
Miss that guy, bro. But that'll do it. We got big finals coming up, and we'll check back with analysis and takes from those matches as well. So stay safe, guys. We'll catch y'all soon.